Welcome to Leading the Way. This podcast is all about communication and leadership. We're looking at what it means to shape the future with communication, content, and purpose-driven leadership. In each episode, we will share stories from life in the Communication Leadership Master's Program at the University of Washington, talking about everything from using grad school to change careers, to life as an international student, to mental health as a student and as a professional. I'm your host, Jazz Espiritu, and I am so excited to be here hosting our very first episode of Leading the Way. I'm Head of Program Affairs at the Communication Leadership Master's Program, otherwise known as Comm Lead, at the University of Washington. Our Comm Lead community is filled with incredible people from all walks of life. What brings us together is our passion to take those experiences and lead. In this podcast, you'll get to hear from all sorts of folks in our community, and my hope is it helps drive your story and how you choose to tell it. For this very first episode, we are diving into mental health for grad students. I've been working in higher education administration for over a decade, and while mental health has always been a major topic, I feel like it's taken time for it to join the conversation. I'm thrilled we get to dive deeper on what that means for grad students. Before we dive into the episode, I just want to mention that we do talk about suicide ideation and self-harm, as well as some episodes of depression and anxiety. I appreciate what our guests have shared, and I think that there is plenty that we can learn from them, but please take care of yourself. We are not here to provide medical advice, but we are people who care, and we are people who have experiences, and we are happy to share them with you all today. And you can check out the show notes for resources for UW students and anyone who's seeking help. We have two amazing guests here with us today to talk a little bit about their own journeys and some really valuable lessons they've learned along the way. Amy Niu and S'Morr, thanks so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Yeah. We're going to do some quick introductions. Tell me your name, your cohort, your degree track, and very briefly, why mental health? We'll get into the story part, but just very briefly, why mental health and why are you here with us today? Amy, let's start with you.
Sure. Hi, my name is Amy. I'm a part of cohort 2023, and I'm in the digital media track. Graduate school was the first time that I had both the time and the resources to access counseling, although I feel that I would have benefited from it during earlier stages in my life, such as my undergraduate studies. Additionally, I felt a lot of pressure to find internships and jobs, especially seeing that a lot of the students in my cohort were mid-career with a lot of experience, whereas I came straight from my undergraduate studies.
Thank you. And S'Morr?
Yeah, so my name is S'Morr. I'm also from cohort 23, also in the digital media track. And mental health is just so important to me because it's something I've struggled with almost my whole life. And seeing others around me that go through similar struggles and not be open or not feel comfortable enough to be open about it makes me want to be the one to speak up and, bear the brunt of speaking to the public about mental health and what it can do and how you can overcome things.
Yeah, definitely. I appreciate that you mentioned that because I do think that there is this interesting stigma of we don't talk about mental health, but also lately it has felt like, but it's right there. We need to talk about it. It's in the middle of almost everything that we do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? So yeah, thank you both. I want to dive a little deeper into what you've mentioned, but first I want to preface this by saying, please only share what you're comfortable with sharing to me and to our listeners. We are grateful to have you here, and this conversation is stronger just with your presence. But feel free to tell me if you'd rather not chat about a specific topic. All right, so Amy, we're going to start with you. You mentioned last year going through a difficult time.
Yeah, so around the start of winter quarter, I had been started on escitalopram, which is the generic for Lexapro, an antidepressant drug. A couple days into starting to use that, I started to feel the adverse side effects, namely an urge to engage in self-harm, as well as suicidal ideation. Later, the doctors who had prescribed it to me determined that I was experiencing an allergic reaction. This would lead me to visit the emergency room, UW Medicine at Montlake, due to some of those effects from that allergy. And later I would be hospitalized in late January of 2024 for major depressive disorder as well as generalized anxiety disorder.
Hold on a sec. I just want to feel that for a minute, okay? Especially, I want to connect that really to like what you were saying in the beginning about how grad school was really kind of this, that was an opportunity to have these resources that you haven't had before. I think you said something along the lines of grad school was the time I could feel like I could take advantage of these.
Yeah, so like I said, graduate school was the first time that I had access to counseling. So actually starting back in fall quarter, I pursued therapy from the UW Counseling Center. That was primarily for imposter syndrome as well as some pre-existing anxiety and panic disorder. And I think that having access to a very structured regime of therapy definitely did help with that imposter syndrome. I think another thing outside of that is just in Comm Lead 501, that core class that everyone takes in the fall quarter, there was a guest lecture on imposter syndrome, or as Dr. Yashin called it, imposter phenomena. And I think that was kind of a turning point in that it helped me to realize that it's not just something that I'm going through. And understanding that I'm at a different stage in my life than everyone else is in their lives has also been really helpful in accepting that I am experiencing imposter phenomena and just kind of making peace with that and saying, okay, I'm at this certain stage in my life. I don't need to necessarily be like everyone else who has all of this experience in their careers, because this is still a place to learn, and I have something to bring to the table with my own unique experiences and that fresh perspective coming straight from undergraduate studies.
Yeah. So that, I got a couple of questions about that. All right. So when you mentioned that grad school is kind of that time when you've realized about these kind of different resources or even the imposter phenomena, does that mean that that wasn't something that was the case in undergrad or even before that?
Specifically for imposter phenomena, it wasn't really something that I had experienced in undergraduate. Everyone at my alma mater was kind of in the same stage in their life. We're all like 18 to 22 years old. We are all figuring out what we want to do with our degrees after we graduate. And I generally felt pretty comfortable with the academic side of that. I actually really enjoyed a lot of the classes that I took in my undergraduate degree. Not to say that that is something that has changed since my graduate studies, but yeah, generally, I would say undergraduate was less of a time where mental health issues had come up. And I do actually have a bit of a tangent. In my final quarter of undergraduate studies, one of the assignments was to perform a song or otherwise give a speech of sorts. And the material that I had selected to perform was a monologue from the British playwright Sarah Kane's final play, 448 Psychosis. And that deals actually with a main character who's going through psychiatric hospitalization. And I remember thinking back to that when I was actually in the hospital and thinking, wow, she got it right. That's exactly what this feels like.
So that's interesting because I know a lot of my previous work has been with undergrad students. And I can tell you that the conversation around mental health and the different kind of crises that they find themselves in, especially in that, you mentioned it right there, the 18 to 22 year like range, it's heavy. The transition from 17 to 18 or just like from high school to college is vast, right? But we don't often talk about like how the transition from undergrad to whatever it is that you want to do. It could be like working professionally for a few years. It could be going straight to grad school, but it's still, it's almost like an even more unknown world, right? Like, and I think that there is this kind of like grasping of like, I want to understand, I want to be comfortable in this place. I want to be able to say like, hey, everyone here may be having the same experiences as I am, and I can feel safe in there. And yet, when we go into grad school, I think that we find people in just all sorts of different walks of life. And how do we find our place in there? And how do we make sure that like we are taking care of ourselves? That imposter phenomena runs rampant, I think, in that kind of environment, which is so important then to like find your community and find yourself, I would say, right? Like that's one thing that I love about grad school is that you are honing in on the things that you learned already and what you want to be and what you want to do.
Amy and I actually met a couple weekends ago, and we were having a chat, and she mentioned imposter syndrome, imposter phenomenon, and I was like, it's so fascinating because I'm older than the average Comm Lead student, I think, because I'm 29. I've been working professionally for 7 years or so now, which is mind-boggling. But I also, like, coming into this program had imposter phenomenon because I was older and I wasn't new, fresh out of undergrad with, the stars in my eyes. And I just felt so out of place and didn't feel like I could really connect with people. And so we both were like, oh, wait, that Spider-Man meme of like, no, you, me too. We both had this. And then understanding, oh, probably everyone in the program has it, at least to some capacity. And that's where the being open and honest and about your feelings and what you're going through really helps.
Yeah. So that's actually a lot of like my own experience as well. When I entered my grad program years ago, I had already been working for a few years too. And I weirdly enough I really felt like I was connecting with folks who just left their undergrad. I felt like I just had that kind of energy with them. Yeah. You mentioned also, Amy, about some YouTube resources that you found. What else was like helpful?
Yeah, so I'd say the primary resource that I engaged with was counseling. I had been working with a therapist from the counseling center for the majority of fall quarter. As I said, that was to tackle some of the anxiety and panic disorder that I had been experiencing, as well as the imposter phenomena. And then going into winter quarter, it's still something that I remember relying on. And I think the hardest part about using that resource was just getting started. But they make the process pretty easy. There's an online portal that the student would log into, and then pretty much the only session that you have to actually schedule through there is the first one.
Wow. Well, thank you for sharing that. Mm-hmm. I also just want to commend you because I think if you are coming into a space that, and when I say space, I'm talking about like a grad program, right? And having these kind of new and overwhelming feelings, I think it's sometimes hard to like recognize what those are, and to even know when it's the right time to seek some assistance, right? And so I'm thinking a lot about what you were talking about with grad school kind of being that point that opened up these like feelings, but also these new resources for you. And I don't know, I would have found it very difficult to realize like, hey, I actually should probably check out an online portal or like call someone or like reach out to my doctor.
Yeah, so it's been difficult seeking help when I most needed it. In late January, just as we were approaching that crisis point, I found myself experiencing this unwillingness to accept help. Even after I voluntarily committed myself to the hospital and I dragged myself to the emergency room for 3 days in a row, there was just this kind of stubbornness in recognizing this is where I'm at right now, and I'm in a place that is supposed to be helpful. So I should probably listen to the doctors when they say, take this other medication, go to this group session. And to a certain extent, I think I understood that what they were prescribing was from their professional opinion, and I did try and follow through on their advice, but on the other hand, there was just kind of that little voice inside my head that said, what if this is the universe giving me a sign and that I'm just supposed to feel like this and suffer alone? I do remember that when the student services specialist reached out to get me into the suicide prevention program post-hospitalization, there was, again, more of that unwillingness. They reached out via email, and I just thought, how did you reach me? Who are you? I don't know who you are. What do you want? Later, I would find out that I didn't have a choice as to opt out of that program. But here we are, and my advice would be just to try and not be that cynical about accepting help. It's definitely hard, but I guess it can be for the best, and there's no valor in suffering alone.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And also providing a bit of advice that you have for listeners on this podcast, but also in my, like, what I think that we're working towards is just the grad student, like, community and the grad student experience. Is there anything that you want your, like, fellow grad students to know?
Be patient with yourself. Improving your mental health is a journey and not a destination. And like a lot of journeys, it'll go down a lot easier with a strong support system. So it's good if you can lean on the people in the program, whether that be fellow students, staff and faculty, people that you meet outside of the program, such as roommates or friends, a part of the wider UW community.
Well, thank you, Amy. You are not alone, and I appreciate that you are listening to the right voices, I think, in your head, because I think a lot of us have many different kinds of voices that tell us different things, and I'm just happy I get to have this conversation with you.
I do want Amy to say, though, because she told me about this beforehand, too, about what she saw when she was in the psych unit, because I think it's like a little bit of humor from a sad time.
We didn't touch on that. Thank you, S'Morr. So in the activity room of the psychiatric hospital in which I stayed, there were textbooks from the Comm Lead program. And I'm sitting there thinking, oh, which one of these books should I read? Those are textbooks that I've seen before. This must be a sign from the universe. Either I should drop out of the program or get my stuff together and go back to school. And I'm glad it was the latter.
Wow, that's really interesting. I did not see that coming.
If nothing else, it shows like you're not alone. Other students go through that, as unfortunate as it is. But I just thought that was so... What are the odds?
Wow, yeah. That's wonderful. All right, S'Morr. Well, let's chat.
Let's chat.
You've been very open to talking about your neurodiversity.
Yeah, recently I have.
Yeah, tell us more.
Yeah, so I guess let's start from the beginning. I also struggled with mental health for a really long time, like I mentioned earlier. I think it was 8th or 9th grade I got diagnosed with major depressive disorder and generalized anxiety disorder. And they just kind of gave me medication and sent me along my way. A side tangent, I really remember my primary care doctor saying to me, like, oh, you're so young. What do you have to be sad about? I was like, solved. I'm cured. Yeah, and then I kind of just went through life. I actually had most of my mental health issues in my undergrad, contrasting to Amy, but eventually stuff leads into one another. I'm like 25. It's the height of the pandemic. I have what I like to call my midlife crisis. People call it your quarter life crisis. Concerns people, but I kind of just had this break where everything who I thought I wasn't who I am anymore. What I wanted to do with my life wasn't what I wanted to do with my life. I didn't know who I was, and went through a lot of counseling, and then realized I never officially got diagnosed, but they suggested I should, and then I looked into it, and it's like $3,000 at minimum, and insurance doesn't cover it. So I was like, my therapist and psychiatrist saying, it's possible, more than likely, yeah, you probably are like on the spectrum, was good enough for me. And then also having a lot of friends or just people I don't know that are officially diagnosed coming up to me and being like, are you on the spectrum? Or like just outright saying, you're on the spectrum, right? And I'm like, I guess I am now. Yeah, so then that happened, and going into grad school was this whole new adventure of, again, figuring out who I am with this new identity and semi-acceptance of my neurodiversity and understanding that I may not be like other people, and that's okay. And then being able to look back on like my history in life and realizing, a lot of stuff that happened, and like getting diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder, major depressive disorder was probably from my neurodiversity and not being able to fit in and not understanding why I can't fit in. And yeah, it's still something I'm like struggling with and working with to this day, but I feel like I'm hopefully on the better end of it now and not in the height of it from the pandemic 2020 era.
Wow. Okay. Well, thank you.
Yeah.
You mentioned how grad school was a bit of this like renewal for you, even though you've had all these years experiencing your neurodivergence. What was it about that kind of grad school position that you were in that made that happen? Yeah.
So a part of it was pre-grad school, realizing, like I said, who I wanted to be or who I thought I was going to be wasn't who I am, and coming to terms with that, and then, thinking, okay, let's maybe go to school and get a further education degree in something I am interested in or could see myself doing. And then starting in grad school, it was kind of this opportunity for me to be a new person, if that makes sense. It's like moving to a new city. You're like, I can be whoever I want to be, but not putting the pressure on myself to be someone I thought I should be, like having that mask up at all times. I was like, okay, I'm going to go to grad school. I'm going to just try to be as honest about who I am and let myself be who I am and not try to put that mask up and not try to train myself every day. And yeah, it really, surprisingly to myself, has worked in my favor. Since I am open with who I am and, all the anxieties I have and how I just don't function in social situations like other people might expect someone to. I've been only met with acceptance from like friends in the cohort and students, and then other people come up to me and they're like, "Oh, you like mentioned you're on the spectrum," and I've been really like interested in like looking into a diagnosis and ask me about my history and my experience, and then I've been able to make a lot of great connections and kind of reinvent myself to being more authentic than I have been.
Wow. It's what I love about what you're telling me here is that so much of your experiences is the reason why you're in grad school, it sounds like, right? Like you trying to figure out who you are and then deciding to take that step of like, I think I need to go back to school, which I know is a really hard decision to make, a really expensive one, but also like you really have to commit yourself. And especially if you're coming from something that might have been completely different. What were you coming from?
I actually had been doing a lot of marketing stuff before, only because I was always the youngest person in the office, and they're like, "Oh, you know marketing, yeah, right?
Yeah. You can start an Instagram page,
right? Yeah, you're on social media. It's fine. Figure it out." But like through that, I actually realized that I kind of do enjoy doing a lot of that. I like analyzing data from marketing strategies and stuff. So since I never officially got a degree into that, I was like, yeah, let me go try to see if this is who I am, who I want to be.
Okay. And how do you feel right now?
I feel good. I mean, I'm in my last quarter.
Oh,
so
yeah. That's right.
I feel good. Yeah. No, I think I'm not getting paid to say this, but the program is great. And I am so glad I was accepted and accepted myself to be in the program and, followed through with it, didn't drop out, even though there was tough quarters, tough classes.
Wow. Well, thank you. I did not pay you to say that.
Oh, I'll send you an invoice. I'm kidding.
But I appreciate that. And I also love the idea, not the idea, but like, I love that your journey, which is something that Amy was mentioning about how it's not a destination, it's a journey, how that can also take you into some different paths that you weren't expecting. But the more that you like are authentic to yourself, and then you take that time to learn more about yourself and admit the things that you should admit and work through that, but also kind of just continue to love yourself through it, can create so much more love everywhere else in your like very authentic friendships and the things that you're learning in class, that you can feel like it's not just something you're learning in class. It's like a life lesson, I think. That's what I've always really enjoyed about my grad school experience, was that there was so much of it that was like that I continue to think about, like continues to drive me, and it's like just the core of my values. But it really took that it really took that moment of like, I think I need to go back. I think I need to go to school because I don't think I'm done learning.
Mm. And it's not easy to admit that.
Yeah.
Or to go back.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, I'm with you too. Like you said it was, you were 29, right?
I am 29.
You're 29.
Yes.
Yeah, you are 29. So grad school around the 28 time. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, well, I hope you both know that these two experiences are coming from like these are different paths, different journeys, right? So in a way, we've still found the both of you here. Mm-hmm. How are you two doing like right now, though? I mean, this is a journey, but how are we doing right now?
Pretty good. So right now, I'd say I'm in a pretty good spot. I am still in a psychotherapeutic relationship with a psychiatrist. I see him about once a month. I'm also on a different medication for anxiety, and I'm stable on that. And I've been trying to get out more, something that I didn't do a lot in winter and fall quarter, and that to me says that I am learning to a bit more to prioritize my mental health.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, in this very moment, I'm doing great. There are good days, there's bad days, and I think it's just learning to not let the bad days set you back and accepting it's not like an incline. It's a roller coaster. I know that's stereotypical, but it really is. There are days where I don't leave the house, I don't leave the bed, and that's okay as long as that doesn't become my normal. Yeah, similar to Amy, I'm trying to get out more and not find the balance between being social and not draining myself.
Yeah. I think you're also speaking to how important it is to understand what we're feeling and how we are feeling it, how we make sure that we're not endangering ourselves, but also choosing the very right decision for ourselves, for our own wellness and for our health.
I also think that speaks to an excellent point about how if you are someone who's going through challenges with mental health, at least in my experience, there were all of these different opinions coming from people like medical professionals, parents, friends saying, oh, you should just do this if you have anxiety. You should go for a walk. You should go exercise, watch a comedy show, do all of this stuff. And I think it's been really important to just find what works for me, knowing that what works for me isn't what works for other people, but that's okay. If it works, don't try to argue with it.
Yeah, thank you. S'Morr, I actually realized I still have a couple of questions for you.
Oh, hit me.
Yeah.
Don't hit me with the questions.
No. What have been your biggest mental health challenges and the biggest supports?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think there's a couple. With mental health specifically, with the depression and anxiety, and I guess that does couple with the neurodiversity. It is really hard for me to convince myself to go to stuff that the Comm Lead program puts together, the Fridays events and stuff during the day or even after work. It's so easy for myself to make excuses for myself to be like, oh, but you're not like other people. You're neurodiverse and it'll be hard and it'll be tiring and draining. You don't want to do that. Just stay home and cuddle with your cats. And sometimes, yeah, that's fine. And that is what's best for me. But being able to fight that inner voice that Amy mentioned before as well, to just go out of your way and push that comfort zone, which sometimes, yeah, it does end up being really draining and tiring. But at least I did it. Mm-hmm. And at least, I gave it my best effort, was trying to be my authentic self the whole time. And sometimes, yeah, I do put the mask on because it gets a little tiring to be authentic. And that's okay. I tried. And just, I think the biggest thing is being okay with trying and being okay. And you don't have to be the best. You don't have to be amazing and perfect and no issues, no struggles, because that's just not feasible. Other than that, things that help me through it is connecting with fellow students, hanging out with Amy and just chatting over lunch about all the things we go through, or, connecting and understanding as well that the staff of the programs you're in, and I'm kind of biased since I do work for a higher education program, mm-hmm. that I know the back end, they care. Even though it's hard and it's oh, Ekin is so on this pedestal and untouchable. She'll meet with you. She'll talk with you. She is be concerned with, not concerned. She'll meet with you, she'll talk with you, she'll support you in however way she can. And I see that in the program I work for as well. Like, if you just talk to them, let them know everything that's going on, they'll do their best to make sure you make it through. And they'll do their best to find support for you as well. So even though it's like, oh, but they're the staff, I don't want to tell them that I'm struggling. It's like, that's what you should do, because that's when you can get the most resources and the most help, I think.
That's true. You are coming from that unique perspective that you know what it's like being behind the desk of a higher ed administration and providing that support to students, right?
Yeah.
So, and you're right. I believe that a lot of that staff does care. Dr. Akinya Shin, by the way, is our director, our fearless leader in the Communication Leadership Master's Program. Just want to point that out. She's wonderful. She also teaches the core class, Comm Lead 501, and she very much cares about every individual in our program, which is pretty amazing. It's also really great to work for her. So I'll just mention that too.
And beyond Comm Lead as well, I will say, since I do have a little insider knowledge in higher education, other programs, and I worked for like University of Texas and then community colleges, usually if someone's the director of a program, it's very rare that they don't care about students. Like, they wouldn't be in that position if they didn't care. So even outside of Comm Lead, I'm sure whatever program someone's in, the director wants to support them, wants them to be successful. Like, they don't accept you into the program so that you can fail. It's not something that happens.
Absolutely. That's at least the hope, right?
True.
Is what the hope that we have for anyone who decides to pursue graduate education. And Amy, you actually were talking about this just briefly, about some of the different mental health practices, right? So I ask for the both of you who've shared your experiences with us, what have been some practices that have worked for you?
For me, the number one biggest thing that's helped is therapy. But also recognizing that I had to go through a lot of trial and errors with a lot of different therapists, because it's not one size fits all.
Yeah.
You won't fit with every therapist that you meet with, and that's okay. You just try another. And it can be exhausting to try like 5 different therapists within a month. But eventually when you do find that one that just like clicks with you, understands you, listens to you, it can be life-changing. And that's what helped me like really understand who I was and like make it through that crisis I had at 25. Other than that, things that allow me to just escape from reality, in moderation, like playing games and reading. And thankfully, I'm really lucky to have a partner that's really supportive, that, you know, I could just walk up to him and be like, I'm really sad and I don't know why. And he'll be like, oh, okay, let's have a spa day. He's really good at meeting my needs. So that's also really great. But I recognize not everyone has that. And when I didn't have a partner, those things like playing games and reading and just going to another space where I don't have to be me for at least an hour and I can do something else. And, you know, eventually when I'm ready to process, come back to reality and work through that. But sometimes I just can't do it right now. I need to read 10 chapters of a book and then I can come back to real life.
That is definitely something that resonates. I think that one of the more important things that you can do to take care of yourself is really just capture all of your senses like almost at the same time. I think video games does a really good job with that. I think reading, especially if you have a very like lively imagination and you can really visualize it, I think that that's something that really takes in that kind of that world. And Amy, you were mentioning about just writing, and I think that writing also it clicks and snaps all sorts of different things in your brain, but also connects so much into like your emotions. It really does just I don't want to say distraction, because I think you can be super focused in what you're doing. But it really does kind of embody this like uplifting movement, I think, for yourself.
It's also just been a really useful tool for self-inventory. It allows for a lot of reflection on your own emotions. Actually, something that's interesting about the practice of writing specifically for mental health is that I think, at least for me, it's kind of forced me to hold on to pain that I might be experiencing just for the sake of creating a good story, making a character feel more alive. And in that sense, even though it can kind of be difficult to hold on to those painful experiences, I think it's worthwhile because it is, at the end of the day, an outlet for negative emotions and a way to process them.
Everything in moderation.
Everything in moderation, yeah. It's really interesting, Amy, just because I've been thinking a lot about writing and how writing has been talked about as an outlet for a lot of artists to kind of depict what either experiences they've had, these different stories that they've got like inside them that they want to share. And it can be some of the hardest things to do is to put words to feelings that I may have already had.
Yeah, like S'Morr said, all good things in moderation. Keeping that practice within the boundaries where, if it gets too intense, it's good to take a break. But within acceptable parameters, it's definitely a helpful practice.
What I'm finding in between these two experiences is just how does one like shift your perspective on your experiences and how to manage those experiences. And it really is kind of like taking a different viewpoint on what you have been doing or what has been working or what is not working.
Yeah, and for me, I also had an experience where I stopped physically harming myself, but then I, much later in life, like as of a couple years ago, realized self-harm can be so many different things. Mm-hmm. It can be when I'm sitting in front of the mirror, like just picking at my skin for an hour or two. It could be like obsessively cleaning the whole entire house in the matter of a half of a day. It's not always that physical, what you would think of in the movies of self-harm. It can be so many other things. And sometimes if you solve one issue, like I'm not physically hurting myself anymore, but now it's developed into something else. And now I have to go and try to solve that issue. And like we said, it's a journey. And thankfully, I've gotten out of the destructive phase of it, but it's still something I'm coping with to this day and trying to recognize when it's happening and coming to terms with it. And again, finding that root cause and trying to find other more productive ways to achieve the same end goal.
Mm-hmm. We've been talking about how your mental health has fit into your grad student journey. And I actually would like to shift that perspective and ask, how has the grad school experience fit into your mental health journey?
I guess from the most superficial standpoint that I can take, I'm in a different state. I'm originally from the Bay Area, which is where I got my undergraduate degree, but I actually grew up, for the most part, in Washington State, not in Seattle, but around the Kenmore-Redmond area. So when I was going through the mental health crisis, my parents were not nearby, and that definitely created a lot of concern from my parents and me just having to try and mediate that as much as possible, and also just dealing with nervousness mostly about like going to the ER by myself, going in an ambulance, and having to be asked to voluntarily commit myself to the hospital. Kind of doing that without my parents there was really difficult. Trying trying to think of a positive. And,
And still at 29, doing stuff without my parents is very difficult as well. So I empathize with that a lot.
I see my parents every Wednesday. Well, they come and help take care of my kid so I can take a break. But yeah.
This theme of like reinventing myself has really been, I guess, my through line because in grad school, since I am kind of older than most of the students, I'm not like that old. I make myself seem like I'm 80 and I'm not, I'm still in the prime of my life. But being that open person that is like open with my struggles and open with my neurodiversity, it has let people like kind of like come to me when they're struggling as well, and have them be more open because they see me as like a source of trust, and so I've kind of developed into this like parental figure for a lot of students, which could be like a lot to take on, but for me I think it's really helped me. Like when you care for, or caring for someone else, in turn I'm caring for myself, because I'll say things to them to be like, I'll give advice to them for their like mental health based on my own experiences, and that'll allow me to like reflect on what I'm doing. And sometimes it's a matter of like do as I say, not as I do. But just having those people that care for me and that I can care for in this pivotal moment of my life and career has really helped me. And also like going to classes, in-person classes at least, like I'm forced to get out of the house. Sometimes I like have to take a day, mental health day, but like being forced to be on campus, it sounds forced. Maybe not the best word choice. Being encouraged to go to class in person and be on campus like gets me out of the house, gets me out of those ruts sometimes, and then realizing like, oh, I'm gonna go to class and see people I enjoy to be with and hang out with and people I like. It really has been kind of transformational for me.
Oh yeah, that's a really good point. I didn't consider how empowering and uplifting having that grad school community be part of it, right? And building really authentic relationships with people who hopefully share the same values, but definitely share the same passions when it comes to like being here at this program and for the work that you all are doing here. I think that's one of the cool things about grad school is that after undergrad, or during undergrad, yeah, you're in this kind of like state of just learning. I have to embrace and like absorb everything. I think especially in this generation of students and just college students and learners, kind of taking as much as they can, and that learning is so important and can almost be detrimental because you're never going to learn everything. But what I've always found really reassuring when it comes to grad students is that these are folks who, after getting that bachelor's degree, have decided, you know what? I want to be really good though at this part. I'm okay. Like everything else is great, but like making that decision for yourself and then being surrounded by other people who've made that same decision. I think that there are a lot of opportunities there to just kind of build really authentic relationships, and that can be, again, like uplifting. So yeah, thank you.
Kind of touching on what S'Morr said about the way the program is set up kind of forces you to get out of the house and meet new people. For me, that has been both classes, being scheduled in person, so that's a way for me to get out of the house, as well as social events, networking events, and webinars that the program puts on. Also, giving us another level of motivation to engage just beyond our classes. I think that has also been really important. It's funny because when I think about reasons to stay alive, I don't think about things in the distant future like the prospect of owning a home or scoring a dream job. I think about very immediate things like seeing the sun rise, running some errands in the next morning, going to class, having things to look forward to. And I think that all of the ways that this program has extended beyond just giving students classes to attend, those for me have been things to look forward to. They've given me a reason to get out of bed every morning and say, okay, I have something to look forward to. There's something to, give me that will to live until that event passes. And then when it does come, I'm going to find another reason and then another. And one day you discover that being alive is worth it. And there are always things to look forward to.
I had a method of it's 5 seconds. If I can make it through this 5 seconds and find something worth to get through, I can do another 5 seconds. And then I can do another 5 seconds. And eventually, 29 years later, you've had a lot of 5 seconds and you find the joys in life that get you out of the bed.
Wow. That was really beautiful, y'all. I really appreciate hearing. I think that's going to be something that really sticks with me. We are talking about how it all fits into this kind of grad student experience. Where do you hope that it takes you after your time here? You are graduating, S'Morr, pretty soon.
Oh, God. Yeah, I am. I don't know. I've always been someone that's kind of gone where the wind takes me. I hate the interview question of where do you see yourself in 5 years? I don't know. If you would have told me 5 years ago I would be in Seattle doing a grad program, I'd be like, you're insane. Yeah. I don't know. I just hope that I'm able to take what I've learned from the program and go into a career that I am happy and fulfilled in, and hopefully making enough money to sustain myself, and then also maintain the connections I've made through the program. I never would have thought I would have made so many close friends in this program. I thought I was past that. You don't make friends when you're an adult. It's just not, how do you do that? I don't go to bars anymore. I'm not in high school where I see people 5 days a week. But I did. I made friends somehow against all odds, it feels like. But being able to maintain those friendships after graduation and, connect with people and understand people or in the same spot as me, even if they aren't the same age, we all have similar situations and circumstances.
What about you, Amy? First off, when do you graduate?
Also at the end of this quarter.
Oh, okay. So both of you graduating. Well, congratulations. Where do you see this leading into?
That's a great question. I think I see it leading into taking the skills that I've developed over the course of the program and being able to apply them to a future career, maybe one that's not even directly related to one of the specializations in the field. I might be pursuing an emphasis in UI UX design, but I might be able to take those skills of empathy, research, user-centered design, and apply them to a career in a different field. And I think that's also something really exciting about this program. It just equips you with a very specialized skill set, but it doesn't have to be limiting. You can take what you've learned and apply them to whatever you might be passionate about.
Very good point. And I hope that for the both of you, that's what it feels like. You're taking your skills and you are finding places where you could utilize them that feels the most authentic to the both of you. And really, I think that that's one of the best things that we can do is just things that we're good at. We're doing it in hopes that we're helping others too. And we're doing it really well. And I believe the two of you are doing really well.
Tell my professors, please.
I mean, I've got them all on email. I really. I do again want to appreciate just how much you all have shared here, and know that like I'm always happy to talk more, and we can continue to have conversations, and you can always reach out to me. I actually got diagnosed with adult ADHD like 3 years ago. Oh. Yeah, because I have a wonderful partner who was like, hey, I'm starting to notice a few things. And I was talking to a coworker and blah, blah, blah. And then they were like, yeah, and maybe you should look into this. And it has changed my life. And so just one, learning that you're neurodivergent at 33 is just, it changes everything. You just look at your entire childhood in a different lens.
Yeah.
I look at my parents who I love and I adore, and I look at them sometimes and I'm like, you didn't know. I mean, I'm Filipino American, and I think like historically in Asian communities, we don't talk about mental health. So introducing that and making sure that my son has those kind of conversation, is able to build, Amy, what you mentioned, empathy. Empathy is such an important piece that I think that we don't often like really talk about. How do you teach that, and how do you like learn to be empathetic? It's really important to me. So I really do appreciate the both of you sharing so much of yourselves with us today.
Appreciate being here.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you for joining us on our first episode of Leading the Way, a communication leadership podcast here at the University of Washington. My name is Jazz Espiritu. If you liked what you heard today, please make sure to like on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere that you listen to your favorite podcasts. Thank you again, and we look forward to seeing you at the next episode. Take care.